Now, guys, I am delighted to say that I'm joined by Simon Delaney. I guess, Simon, how are you, first of all?
I'm good, Johnny. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I was going to go through a big introduction as to who you are and what you
Who
do,
cares?
but I then thought about it and I was like, how does Simon introduce himself? Like, what do you say you are? Because you do a lot of things.
I suppose I'm most regularly introduced as an actor because that's what I've been doing for over 20 years now. But I suppose being self-employed and being an actor, you have to diversify, So most actors in Ireland end up doing theatre, television, movies, radio plays, radio dramas. Then I get into doing a bit of presenting, did a lot of documentary series. And now I'm presenting Ireland AM as well, still acting, still, filming away, doing other bits and pieces. So I think, how would I be introduced? I don't know. All rounder. To rob a cricketing parlance, I suppose I'll be an all rounder.
And I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by the acting career. It's not a career that I guess many people get to pursue or get to become. How did you get into it?
Well, I came to it late. I mean, I was in my early 20s when I joined a local drama group, and I just started doing plays and musicals, and just got bitten by the bug. And then I had a modicum of talent, so I started getting asked to do shows with different drama groups and societies around Dublin. So I was playing a lot of football at the time, and then the football training was into the rehearsals, so I kind of packed in the sport and just started doing plays and musicals all around the city, all around the country. We used to tour around doing 1-act and 3-act drama festival circuits around Ireland. We were doing competitions, and then luckily enough, I got a chance to do a short film that a cousin of mine, her partner, had written this short movie, a 3-hander, set in 1916 about these 3 IRA men who were trapped in a basement on the day in 1916 on the Easter Rising. And they had 3 actors lined up, and one of them, a week before shooting, pulled out because he got a job. He got a paying job, because mostly when you do shorts and you do favors for friends, they're for nothing. You're doing them for nothing. You're doing them for camera experience.
Sure.
And he pulled out, so it meant there was a gap. There was a gap in the cast. And my cousin had just seen me doing a play in Andrews Lane Theatre, and rang me in work one day. I was working in a motor factor's place in Croke Park, and she said, "Do you want to do a film?" I said, "How do you mean do a film?" She said, "Well, there's a part in the film going. It's a week filming in Ardmore Studios." And I thought, absolutely. So I asked my boss for a week off. He said, "Yeah, go for it." Fair play to him. He said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I did the movie, and about 6 months later, then it premiered at the Galway Film Flat, and an agent was watching the movie, and she got in touch with me and said, "Look, do you want to give this a go?" She said, "I think you might be able to, survive or make a living in this business." I was only 26, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go for a year, because I can always go back. I was a sales rep at the time, so I can always go back and pick up rep and work,
Yeah.
And that was 23 years ago, and I'm still with the same agent, and she's now one of my best pals. So we've been through a lot together. And then it kind of rolled from there. I landed my first movie not long after signing with her, and then I signed up to do a weekly radio drama with RTE that I did every week, and then gigs just started to roll in, and I just consistently kept working. And I've been very lucky. Luck plays a huge part of it, as it does in golf. But I've been very lucky. I have what I'd like to think is a decent work ethic. I don't like to be idle. I'm always trying to create work myself, even to this day. And so that's where it started, and that's how I get into it. And touch wood, I'm still waiting for someone to knock on the door and say, "Right, come on, give this malarkey up now and go back repping," But it hasn't happened yet, Johnny.
And you mentioned there that an element of luck plays into the career and going to make
100%, yeah.
as it does in golf. How did you first get into golf?
Well, my late father was a huge golf fan, and my first experiences of golf wasn't playing golf, it was caddying for him. I learned how to caddy before I learned how to play. He was a member in Balbriggan 30, 40 years ago. Himself and my granddad and my uncle were all members out there. And I remember as an 8 or 9 and 10-year-old being brought out, because I'd obviously insisted on going with him, and I was clearly a pain in the arse enough for my mother to say, "Would you please take him out of the house for a couple of hours?" And I went out and I wasn't playing. I learned how to caddy, and that was a great experience for years. I learned how to caddy, how to hold the pin properly, how to address the pin, just the etiquette of the game, marking the scorecards, learning about Stableford, learning about just watching different players, amateurs. Every amateur swing was different, learning, about different clubs. And that was my kind of grounding in the game. And then I remember when I was about 12 or 13, we had relations who lived not far from Birmingham in the UK, and we used to go over on our summer holidays and we'd take in the British Open. My dad was that big a golf fan.
Wow.
So we'd go to the British Open for a day while we were on our holidays. And I still have vivid memories of walking around Lytham and St. Anne's. And my dad was a huge Tom Watson fan, and we religiously followed Tom Watson. And I remember one particular summer, and we all remember the summers, and they were always very sunny. But this day was scorching. And I remember thousands of people, and we had the old telescopic things, cardboard things that one of the tabloids gave away when you walked in the gate of the Open, and crowds were 10, 15 deep following Watson. And I think he came off the 11th green and was walking to the 12th tee, and I was only a little short arse, and I got pushed in front of him. And he put his hand on my head, he ruffled my hair and said, "How are you, pal?" And my father brought me home that day and said to my mother, "Don't wash that child's hair." He's been touched by the hand of God ever. But I remember that was incredible watching that. And then we all, as a family, fell in love with Seve. Seve was a huge part of our lives. My sister actually has a Siempre Seve tattoo on her arm, Forever Seve.
Really?
He was a huge part of our lives, because around then, I'm talking about 82, because I know he won the Carroll's Irish Open 83, 85, and 86, I think it was. And we had a next door neighbour who had a relation who used to drive an outside broadcast truck for RTE. And on the week of the Carroll's Irish Open, which at the time was on in Royal Dublin, and we lived in Raheny, so not too far away from it, he would pull up outside the neighbour's house, and we'd all jump into the back of the van and then drive straight through the gates at the Carroll's Irish Open, and he'd leave us out, and then he'd pick us up at 8 o'clock that night. So we were like feral rats running around the course at Royal Dublin. But my focus was Seve. I followed Seve everywhere. And I can still see him, following him out of the clubhouse on a Sunday, and he was playing with Brian Barnes. And I remember following him to the first tee, and he just had this aura, and he looked like a rock star, and he was tanned, and the jet black hair, and the beautiful navy sweater, and the gold Rolex watch. And I thought, this guy is just the business. And then he just stripes it down the first, and we followed him everywhere. And I remember back in the day, he used to do clinics. Like, if you think about it now, like clinics during the week of a tournament. And I remember he used to hold a clinic on the 18th green in the evening at Royal Dublin. And I remember sitting with thousands of people around the 18th green, and he stood on the green, and his caddy stood about 250 back up the fairway, and his caddy had a baseball catcher's mitt, and Seve would drive back down the fairway, and the caddy, I swear to God, never moved more than 8-10 feet. He just plucked him out of the air. Seve was hitting drives off his knees. He was hitting drives off one leg, and then he'd throw a few balls in the bunker. He'd do a little bit of a bunker work, and then he'd throw a dozen balls in the green and do a putting masterclass. And I was just absolutely smitten by the guy. And the way he played golf is why everyone loved him, why I loved him. And then having those memories of watching him do what he did at St. Andrews and the Matador celebration, and then like right through his career, like what he did for European golf, what he did for the Ryder Cup, winning the Masters first of all was that watershed moment for European golf and for European players. It made Americans realize that other people in the world played golf, and not only do they do that, they play it bloody well. And Seve broke that kind of barrier. And then the Ryder Cup was very special as well to me, and then watching what Seve did as a player. I mean, those images of him and Nick Faldo crying. These guys were so competitive. These guys didn't like each other,
Yeah.
And then watching them crying and holding each other on the 18th green. I think it's 87, was it, in the States?
87 with Darcy, yeah.
Yeah, it's so emotional to me, And then obviously then he got sick, and there was all that coverage, and even the coverage of his funeral again. Nick Faldo being interviewed outside his funeral, and Nick just breaking down crying, they were mortal enemies in the golf course, but they absolutely loved each other, and they loved what each other did for Team Europe. And then obviously he passed away at such a young age, and even still, then, watching the Ryder Cup at Medina, they're all wearing the Seve jumpers on the last day, and Justin Rose pointing to the picture of Seve on the sleeve, and Jose Maria Olazabal crying on the 18th green, "This is for you." He was just, for me, he was the ultimate pro, the ultimate competitor, the ultimate player, and the ultimate sports personality. That's why I fell in love with the game. And then I started playing then, when I was sort of 13 and 14, having watched Seve and watching those master classes and those clinics. We used to go down to our local pitch and put our par 3 down in St. Anne's Park in Raheny, and I would only ever bring a 7-iron, a wedge, and a putter. And that's where I learned how to play. That was my forte. Still to this day is the short game. It's the use that 7-iron round the greens. And
don't worry, I got up close and personal with a Seve-esque experience. You pitching it out of the water at Moy Valley.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that was a miracle, really. That was a miracle shot, really. But that's why we loved Seve, wasn't it? Yeah. Seve see a ball in the water and go, "Of course I'm going to play it. Yeah, I see the shot. Yeah, of course I'll play it. What would I drop it out for?" But so that's when I sort of started playing then, and then I used to play a bit of society golf down with my dad and go on outings with him around the country, and loved that, and then eventually just kept playing regularly and was playing 3 or 4 times a week, and had got my handicap down. I think I was at one point maybe 12, 13. I was really enjoying it, and then started having kids, and the more kids I had, the less weekly visits to the golf course there were, and so I've never fallen out of love with the game. I've fallen away in terms of playing as regularly as I'd like to, but having 4 boys, and my 13, soon to be 14-year-old Elliot has been bitten by the bug now, so I'm bringing him out to. Yeah, he's my.
I gotta go to the golf course. Elliot's dying to go.
Yeah, Elliot, he's out there asking me again. He wants to go to the bloody driving range again, love. So up we go. But he's really got the bug, because he's been watching the golf with me, because I watch golf coverage all the time. It's my go-to kind of therapy. I love just putting it on in the morning, leaving it on, and doing your things for the day. And he got invested in, and he knows who all the players are. And then I was lucky enough then to bring him out to meet you guys. He got his first taste of a golf course, proper course. And then I brought him down to the Pro-Am at the Irish Open last week, and he just loved it. So I'm reckoning, what is he now, 14? I give him another 7, 8 years? Give him 8 years, Johnny. So the Masters sort of 2030. Maybe we should be out.
So put that Jerry.
Well, that in the diary, Johnny. Yeah, you may be on the 18th grade.
It'll be you standing there, me standing right next to you, both those balls in their eyes out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Recreating the Tiger moment.
Exactly.
So you said that you started out caddying for your dad. And I imagine that was, you were going around with the shag bag for him whenever he was down striping balls.
Absolutely.
When did you guys get to first play together? What age were you?
Yeah, I suppose I would have been about maybe 17 or 18 before he kind of let me come along on one of those kind of society outings. And then I remember playing in a society match play that was actually out in Balbriggan. And I was playing against one of the society regulars, and this guy was about 15 or 16, handicapped, decent golfer, And I was only a kid, and I beat him, and I remember my dad he was in the 4-ball in front of me or behind me, and he obviously had got word that I was kind of 3 up with 4 to play or whatever it was, and he stood and watched me then as I won that game. And then I played with him, and he was a strange man to play with. He was very, he had a terrible golf swing, that duck's arse golf swing, and the club was down very low, and he'd always just say the one thing to you before he hit it. He'd say, "Keep an eye on this." And I felt like, well, what are you going to do? What are you doing? You're just going to hit it, and I have to watch it. But I remember that from when I was 10 till when he actually passed away playing golf. Would you believe? Up in the 17th green in Ardee Golf Club. What a way to go! But I remember playing with him, and he was very competitive, but he was also very aware of the etiquette of the game. Shutting your mouth when someone else was teeing off, stand behind the player, don't walk on somebody's line, don't play out a turn. And he believed in that, in the honesty of the game as well. He very early on taught me, you're going to meet a lot of golfers, particularly society golfers, who you'll see them kicking the ball out of the rough, or kicking found it, one of those ones when we've all been in there for 10 minutes. He said, you'll meet them. He said, there's nothing you can do about it. Just don't become one of them, play the game honestly. And I did, and I still do to this day, he used to always say to me, who you cheating on yourself, But so I love playing with him, and then I remember one time that we were over the British Open, and himself and a couple of my relations in England, they used to drink in a local pub in a place called Henley in Ardee in England, just outside Birmingham, and they got whisper that there was potentially a tea time available in St Andrews over the next few days. And back in the day, I remember, I think you needed a GUI to play in it or something. And my dad, there was frantic murmurings, the frantic movements of the pub that night as the fax machine was put into play in the pub, where the phone call, they rang Balbriggan and they had to fax his GUI to the pub. And they got a 4-ball, and he brought my sister, my older sister, and I remember them going off the next night. I was very, very upset. But they went off and they drove from Birmingham up to St Andrews through the night. And they played St Andrews, and I still have the photographs of my dad and my sister standing at the road hall on the 17th, and the bridge. Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. Because my sister played a bit back in the day, and then kind of let it go as she got older. But she was the one who got to play St Andrews. Like, she didn't even play; she caddied for my dad, and I was like, I'm the regular caddy. Why am I getting bumped here for the major? You know what I mean? I was disgusted, but. Yeah, so he played St Andrews, which had always been a dream of his, because he'd watched the good, the great, and the good up there play over the decades. But so really it all stems from him, Johnny. And every time I go out, and every time I tee up on the 17th, I always say a little moment to myself, because he passed away on the 17th, and I always say to myself, another good hit here and get me to the 18th kind of thing, So he's always kind of in the back of my mind, particularly when I'm out on the golf course, Yeah, so it's all down to him. There you go.
It seems like he's obviously still a huge part of everything. Obviously,
of course, yeah,
father, but it also seems like the principles that he's instilled in you're instilling in your son in terms of.
Well, he was very similar because he was a printer by trade, but he was also in show business. He played in the show bands back in the 60s and 70s. He actually played with Frank Sinatra, would you believe? His band had a couple of weeks residency in a place that doesn't exist anymore called the Regency Hotel in New York, and the story went that Sinatra played a couple of nights with them. Now, of course, how's he going to prove that? That was his pub story. And I used to remind him of that. I said, geez, when you told that story a week ago, there was 300 in the crowd. Now tonight there's 500. And he used to say to me, listen, he said, doesn't matter how many were there. He said, it's closer to Sinatra than you'll ever get. So he was kind of in showbiz as well. And he kind of taught me that thing of just having a work ethic, because they were working Monday to Thursday, and then they would gig Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, then go back to work, and I kind of did that for years. I was working and then doing shows at night, and like him, I was crisscrossing the country doing shows and trying to get back to go to work. And so he told me some great war stories about touring the country with show bands. And so I suppose he's instilled everything in me in terms of a work ethic and principles. But one of the greatest shames I have is that, he passed away when I was only 25, so he never saw me do anything in terms of acting. He saw me do a few amateur things, but, he never didn't see me make my West End debut, or, didn't see the first movie I made, or the first IFTA, or whatever, all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, he didn't see any of his grandkids born, didn't see us get married, and that's obviously the bigger thing. But no, huge part in my life, and my love of golf is 100% down to him,
You've mentioned there that he passed away on the 17th Queen at Ardee.
Yeah.
I've heard that this is quite darkly a quite a funny story.
Yeah. So I remember it was a Saturday morning. I was working at the time. I was driving a van at the time with Sam Hire, and I was in work on that Saturday. And he woke me up. It was a beautiful day, and he said to me, "Look at that." He said, "The sun's splitting the stones." He said, "You're going to work, and I'm going to play golf." I was like, "You swine." The usual rubbing it in, as golfers do.
Of course.
Anyway, I go to work, and of course, then 5 or 6 hours later, I get a phone call from one of the lads who was in the 4-ball with him and say, "Listen, your dad's having a heart attack." I said, "Jesus Christ." I said, "Is he all right, Liam?" He said, "No." He said, "He's gone." So, of course, shock. And the lads, I had to drive home, tell my sisters, and to ring my brother who was working in Germany, tell him the news. And then the lads who'd played with him that day came back to the house and they said, look, we have to go back up and you have to go and identify the body. I thought, Jesus. Okay. So myself and Liam Talon and the lads he was playing with, we drove up all the way up to Ardee. Not a word in the car. As you can imagine, very somber. Not a word. I go in, I identified what, yeah, it's my dad. Back in the car, driving back down to Dublin. Not a word until we got to about Bettystown, where Liam Talon piped up and he said, do you know, Simon, it didn't really matter because he was putting for a 6. He said he'd scratched the hole anyway. And the car just filled with laughter. And my dad would have pissed himself laughing if he'd heard that as well. But I thought that just sums up golfers for me. You know, it's just that humour. It didn't matter. He was putting for a 6. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Have you gone back to Ardee and played it since?
You know what? Funny enough, I've never played it and I've never been to it. And I was only up there. I was up in Drogheda recently and I was talking to the local superintendent, the police superintendent. And somehow the topic of Ardee Golf Club came up. And I said to him, I said, you know, funny enough, I said, my dad passed away. He said, oh, Jesus Christ, when was that? I said, 96. And I said, you know, I've always wanted to, like, maybe talk to the club, maybe put a bench there or something, or a little plaque, you know, that the family would put there. And so he said, I'll organise that for you. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, the lovely people at Ardee I'll go up there and we'll have a chat and sort something out for him. And it'd just be nice to have a bench there. So sure. I saw one recently in Malahide in the Pitch and Putt Club, and I thought it was gorgeous, just beside one of the little tee boxes, and a little plaque on it. It's not dedicated to anybody in particular. It just says, look, sit down here, enjoy that view, and remember those who have walked here before and aren't enjoying that view anymore. And I thought, that's good. And I sat down with Elliot and said, let's just sit down for a second and just look out here. The sun's splitting the stones. There's nobody out. It's only us. Isn't this great? And he was like, yeah. And I thought, that's lovely. And then I thought, I'd love to do something like that up in Ardee. I don't even know what the hole is. I don't even know if it's a par 3, a par 4, par 5. I don't know, so I'll go up and I'll do something up there definitely for him and market, albeit nearly 30 years later.
That'd be lovely, though. That'd be very
it would be nice.
We'll move on from onto current golf and kind of happier stories. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
You're with work. You've traveled all around
the
world and all around the States. Has golf got to travel with you as you've done a few shows?
Not really. Not really. No, I've been all over the States, and I've never played golf in the States. And I've been, as you say, I've worked everywhere. No, the golf never traveled. Really, funny enough. Just the thoughts of it, it's hard enough leaving your wife and kids with a suitcase going away to Spain to work for 3 months without rubbing in salt and bringing the fucking golf clubs as well, Johnny. Do you know what I mean? I think that'd be taking the mickey a bit, but
I feel like that's the difference between you and me, right there.
Well, I know. You see, you'd rather forget your suitcase and bring the clubs. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But I think more as I'm getting a little bit older now. I think I'm definitely going to start plotting that a bit more, because I've walked some of the best golf courses in the world. Now I want to play them. I've played a lot of golf in Ireland, obviously north, south, east, and west. But I think particularly having walked some of the British Open courses, I'd love to get over there because I love links. I love links golf. And that's my first love is links golf. I'm not a huge fan of the parkland dart courses that kind of the PGA Tour have week in, week out until the US Open comes around. But yeah, so definitely it's on the agenda, Johnny. It's on the agenda.
Very good. So this week is obviously a big week for you then as a golf fan, golf.
Yeah.
You camp in front of the TV, do you, for the Open Championship?
I got up at 6:10 this morning in time to watch Paul Lawrie strike the first tee shot at the Open this morning, and I've been watching it all day. All day. Love it.
Has it lived up to the memories?
Yeah, it has. And it's strange this year because having watched the practice rounds on the coverage and listened to all the pros, they were saying, this isn't going to be a shooting the lights out thing. This is as fast as we've ever seen it. It's firm, it's fast, it's fiery. Rory himself said anything close to 74 rounds of that, you'll be in it. And then Cameron Young goes out and stripes a 64, and he missed an eagle putt, by the way. But today it was a bit benign. But no, St Andrews is just Jesus. That just every hole is a postcard. And it looks very easy. I love I love watching the coverage because you hear these stories, And I love one commentator said today, I think it might have been Sam Snead or Varden or one of them, on his first trip over to St. Andrews, was getting driven to the course. And as he passed the course, he went, "Oh man, look at that. That's it's an abandoned golf club." And your mum, no, that's St. Andrews. Because it looks just like a field. It's just flat. It looks very easy. But there's 140 odd bunkers on it, most of which you can't see from the tee boxes. And the greens, the biggest greens in the world, shared greens, undulations, the wind, magic. Bring it on. Now, don't ask me who's going to win it. I haven't a clue, but Cameron Young's going well.
Yeah, he's doing well so far anyway. So you were saying there that your son Elliot's getting into golf. And
yeah.
You and your dad obviously went over to plenty of British Opens. Is that a tradition, you think?
Absolutely. I mean, what I'd love to do, I've never done, of course, look, every golfer wants to go and see the Masters, but that's definitely on the checklist. Although quite how you get your hands on tickets, I think I'll have to win an Emmy or a Golden Globe or an Oscar just to give myself a shout at a ticket. So I'm working on that as well. But I think
good luck.
The best of luck with that. Definitely bringing him to tournaments. I brought him down to the Irish Open, the Pro-Am, just to give him a flavour and to show him, because you know yourself, Johnny, when you stand beside these guys and they hit the ball, it's a different sound. It's just such a different energy. And, I'm a firm believer. I've always enjoyed watching people do what they do at a high level, be it a carpenter making something, be it a chef, and watching these pros play golf. It's just, it's art, it's magic, and I wanted Elliot to experience that and also to see, his dream is to get a scholarship to go to the States to play golf now, go to college in America, which is great. He's a straight A student, so he has that side boxed off. Now it's just about the game of golf. But and just to follow these guys around and see the preparation that goes in, like standing on the putting green, watching these guys practicing, watching them pitching, watching them playing them out of bunkers, then come to the first tee, chats with the caddy, yardage books, plotting their way around, the weather, the winds, factoring everything in. I just wanted them to get an experience of that, to see that it's not just standing up in the tee and walloping it as fast as you can. Because like most kids, like me when I was his age, at the driving range, he says, "How far should I be able to hit this 7-iron?" I said, and I always, it's not about how far you can hit it. It's where you're hitting it. Like you can hit a 7-iron shorter than the next fella hits a 7-iron, but it doesn't make any difference. It's whatever the yardage calls for, whatever you can hit that club to. It's about precision. So I'm building that into him, but absolutely I'd love to bring him away, maybe over to a British Open, maybe next year. Definitely down to the Caddy Club next year for the Irish Open again. He loved it.
Who did you guys follow on Pro Am Day?
Well, we ticked all the boxes. We did. We followed Lowry and Power, and then my favourite, Padraig Harrington. We got up close to Padraig, and then I had a couple of pals playing in the Pro-Am, so Ken Doherty. We followed Ken around for a while. And I gave him some abuse from the fairway, and then Jimmy Nesbitt. I know Jimmy years and met Jimmy down there, and it was great.
On the podcast next week.
Is he? Yeah. I suggest Jimmy.
I met him there on the Wednesday as well.
He's a lovely man. Loves his golf. I've known Jimmy for years. Yeah. So we met and hung around with Jimmy for a while, and then we kind of just experience as well, like, because it's when you're trying to explain what the tournament is to a 13-year-old, like when you see the championship village, and all the different golf shops and the different things that are happening. And there's live music and there's razzmatazz, you know what I mean? Which is, and I remember that from when I went to the Open when I was 13 in the UK, going to the championship village, swarms of people, thousands of people, and people getting autographs and gloves, and it's just the paraphernalia of it was amazing. So just to get him for him to experience all that was fantastic. And I'm going to try and aim to play in the Pro-Am next year, get him to caddy for me, because he said to me driving home that day, he said, "Dad, you have to play in that next year." I said, "Well, I'll try." He said, "No, you have to, because I want a caddy." I said, "Okay." So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, again, good luck.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm putting my name down now, Johnny. Now.
Are you getting to play much?
No, not really. Not really. I was lucky enough to play with you guys. I think I played about 4 rounds in the last 2 years. I'm not getting out enough because, as you know, I'm working every Friday, Saturday, Sunday with Ireland AM. And then when I'm off during the week, all my friends are in work. So it's tricky just to coordinate things. And with 4 kids, you're doing school runs, all that kind of life gets in the way of it. But I'm absolutely making a decision now. I'm going to join a club with Elliot, where we are in North County Dublin. Join a club very, very soon. And because of his love in it now, I'm going to get him out and I'm going to bring him out. And, I'm going to start playing more, because I was playing three times a week regularly back in the day. And that's how you get your handicap down. You can't play twice a year and expect to roll up and shoot a decent score. You can't. It just doesn't happen.
Like anything.
Exactly. It's like anything. You can't just turn up and do it, And that's what I'm trying to impress on Elliot, when you watch Seamus Power knocking it and Lowry knocking it off the first tee in the Irish Open, you're saying to him, like, they haven't just pulled up in the car like we did and get out and walk onto the tee. They're here 2.5 hours. They're working with their swing coaches, with their short game coaches, with their putting coaches. They walk on there fully warmed up, fully focused, physically ready, mentally ready. That's how they're able to do it. And that's how they're able to do it under pressure. And that's one thing I think as well, excuse me, a comparison between what I do as a job in terms of performing and in golf, it's performing under pressure, because everybody thinks they can play golf, but they can't do it in front of 5,000 or 10,000 people. Similarly, a lot of people think they can act, but try and do it 8 times a week in the West End in front of 1,200 people. That brings its own pressure. And the only way of alleviating that pressure on stage on the golf course is practice. I was watching Scotty Scheffler this morning, and his coach, or Colin Morikawa, was watching today on the range, and his coach was standing behind him. The commentator was saying that guy's been his coach since he was 8. He's probably watched Morikawa hit over 1 million golf balls, and yet he's standing there behind him, videoing each drive on the range. He'd stop, they'd have a look at it. They go back, he'd hit another one, record that. And it's just repetition. And I think they're great. I think golf is a great way of teaching people life lessons, and particularly young men. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just in terms of etiquette, how to carry yourself, how to behave yourself. It teaches you life lessons. Perseverance, training, commitment, honesty. I love that in the game, and I love that in the sport of golf. That's why the whole live golf thing is it's just soured. Or they're trying to sour the game. It's not just another tour. Like Lee Westwood was talking today about it. And, he was asked, because he shot 400 today, he's in contention. Now, should he be playing there? And he was asked, you're playing at the British Open. Does missing majors in the future upset you? And he went, no, not really. It's just another tour. It's like the South African tour. South American, it's just another tour, and to pick on one tour and ban those players is not fair. That's not the point. Anyway, that's another discussion, Johnny. But I take my golf. I love the heritage of the game, and when I see players like Poulter, who I adore in terms of Ryder Cup, moving over, why are they going over there? Do they need that much more money? Are they stuck for a few quid? They can't be. And particularly Poulter and Westwood, all they're playing for now is for championships, is for titles. Why they go? Well, what's the point of winning a Centurion in London? Who cares? Anyway. Yeah. You've opened a can of worms there, Johnny.
Yeah, we've. We may as well go all in now, joking.
With both feet.
So, you actually kind of touched upon what I wanted to follow up with next, which was: are there many similarities between your profession and your love of golf? So is there anything other than the repetition and the practice inside and performing under pressure that you take from acting that you can apply to golf? Or is there anything that you have taken from golf in your time growing up with your dad on the golf course that you've taken to acting?
I definitely think it's that word repetition is hugely important. I remember a couple of years ago, I had this mad idea 10 years ago, this crazy idea about, I thought, I'd love to represent Ireland in the Olympics, right? And I thought, what sport could I do? And I said, are there any sports that involve standing still? And I looked at archery and I thought, okay, archery, yeah, that's standing still. I mean, why not? Gina Davis has represented the United States twice at the Olympics, an actor. I thought, why not? So I contacted a friend of mine and I said, do you fancy making a documentary series about me trying to qualify for the Olympics? And he said, do what? I said, archery. And he laughed his arse off. Anyway, at the time we were trying to qualify for the London Olympics, so it would have been about 2008. So it was after Beijing for London. I contacted the Archery Federation Ireland, got a coach, and I started training. And what I found with archery was the first night that I went up, and I got this lovely man, Vinny, was my coach, who coached one of the Irish squads, archery squads. And I hit my first couple of arrows, and he said, "Do you play golf?" I said, "I did, yeah, quite." He said, "Did you play a lot?" I said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "Why?" He said, "You can tell." He said, "Because archery is the exact same. It's repetition. Golf is the same swing every time. Archery is the same movement every time. Repetition. You shoot at targets at 30 meters, 50, 70, and 90. But it's the same movement." And he said the similarities are there. So that idea of repetition in terms of what I do is for a living, that's exactly what I do. There are similarities between my job and another passion of mine, which is cooking. And, you know, I have great admiration for professional chefs because they're performers and they have to, like, particularly at the top level of the game, like professional golfers, Michelin star chefs, they have to produce that level of food every night, every single night. No matter what's happened during their own day, you've got to go out and do it every night. Actors are the same. Golfers are the same. And we've seen over the years, you know, the trials and tribulations that golfers have, none more so than Tiger. And you're watching him today. And he's given, like, he was 6 over at one point today. And he's given it every shot 100% attention. Makes 2 birdies in a row. And you think, Jesus, he could win it now because he has that look in his eyes. But that's just, it's that never give up. It's just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it. As I said, I think it's a great sport. All sports are, let's be honest, but our sport, golf, is a great training ground for life lessons. And lessons that I've learned, as you said, from my dad from when I was caddying. I still do that. I still put my feet together when I caddy, you know, at the stand holding the pin. I still do that. You just hear my dad going, "Stand still, will you?" Don't wave the flag. You know, don't annoy the golfer. I still do that. So yeah, I suppose there are definitely lessons in golf that you carry through life. 100%.
I was lucky enough to play with you at Moy Valley, and
well, you say lucky, Johnny.
It was possibly one of the most fun rounds of golf I've ever had.
We did a bit of crack.
It was a lot of fun. Had you been? You said you had played once or so that year before that.
I think that was the second round of golf I had this year. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. The weather held up eventually, so
eventually the rain was horizontal for the first hour or so, but then it eased off a little bit, Johnny.
I imagine for the first 3 or 4 holes, you were like, "What am I doing out here with this guy?"
I was more thinking about poor Elliot, who was down caddying, thinking, "Jesus, this is golf." I don't think so. But I remember you said something to him. You said, "Elliot, if you still want to play golf when we're finished today, you've been bitten by the bug." And by God, he has. He loved being there that day. Loved it.
It was a really, really fun day. And thank you for coming out.
It was my pleasure.
Enjoyed it.
And I made a birdie.
You did, yeah.
I got a birdie, Johnny. I mean, come on. I mean, I haven't had a birdie in 3 years, maybe. No, I didn't.
I know. And I think
I think
a couple of holes before that, you nearly killed me as well.
That's right. Yeah. But that listen, it's all part of the game, Johnny. You just move on to the next hole.
You're just keeping me on my toes.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that was great fun. It's a lovely course.
Moy Valley, yeah.
And it was a lot of fun playing with yourself and Will. And the weather didn't help us, but we kept going. And we had a lot of fun. We were all over. Well, I was all over the course. I was in the water at one point, and that was great crack.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We must get another game in soon.
100%.
Listen, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate chatting to you. It was great to have a chat. Last question is going to be this. Actually, second last question.
Okay, come
on. One thing I'm always intrigued by, and it seems like this game holds a lot to you.
Yeah.
So I guess if you can put it into words, what does golf mean to you?
To me, golf means family. To me, it's something that I was lucky enough to share a passion with my sister, my brother, and my dad, and my mum when I was growing up, through watching golf and then luckily going on to play golf. And it's something that I'm now passing on to my kids. Again, starting out watching it, learning how to caddy, and then getting out there and playing. It's something that I think when you get bitten by it, it never leaves you. And I think what brings us back onto the course time after time is that one good shot. So that one birdie I had in my valley, I still think I can win the British Open. Because I just need to do that in every hole, Johnny. It's a simple game.
Easy game after that. The 59 is calling for you. 52.
Oh, Lord. Didn't mention the fact that I knocked it out of bounds in the next tee, but that's the beauty of the game.
And then the last one is, I know you said you wouldn't pick one, but who's going to win the British Open?
I'd love it to be Lowry. I'd love it to be Seamus Power. I had a sneaky bet on Padraig. I think it could be Rory's year. He traditionally, his first rounds, I think I heard a stat today that over the last couple of years, his first rounds in majors were 24 over, and in the last 12 months, it's 14 under.
Yeah.
So he's trending in the right direction. It could be Rory's. Scheffler's still there. I think, hand on heart, if it's not Rory, I'd love to see Cameron Smith do it, because he must have a pain in his arse collecting runners-up medals at this stage. So I'd love to see him do it. I'm a big growl for the Australian golfers. I loved Greg Norman back in the day. Loved Adam Scott. I like Mark Leishman. I've backed him several times. He's come very close on a couple of occasions. But Cameron Smith definitely has a major in him. And today, watching him even in those conditions, he's famed for his long putting. He was draining some cracking putts today. But then from 10 and 8 feet in, he was draining them as well. And for me, if that's what you're doing on a course like St. Andrews, you have every chance. So if it's not Rory or one of the Irish boys, Cameron Smith.
That's very, very, very good assessment. Cam Smith's is he's been so close.
Man,
you feel
man.
for him.
I do have a good record in terms of picking winners. I had Fitzpatrick and Zalatoris for the US Open. So I had first and second. I had Matsuyama last year for the Masters. So my crystal ball works in that way. But I had a sneaky bet on Padraig this week, and I think I think last I saw he was 1 under. He might still be there. If he makes the cut, he's a shout. But I think in terms of a golfing story and what's happened in the last 12 months in terms of the majors, nobody would begrudge Cameron Smith the British Open. And what a British Open to win, by the way, the 150th at the home of golf.
Yeah.
I mean, as Nicholas said,
it feels different.
It does feel different, absolutely. And like even watching some of the guys just teeing it up today, like Max Homa, who was playing with Tiger Woods today, tweeted this morning at 5 o'clock, "I can't believe I'm playing in St. Andrews at the 150th, and I'm playing with Tiger." Like he's like us playing.
Yeah,
it's like, and I love that about the game. The fact that Scotty Scheffler came from nowhere and he's world number one.
Yeah,
he got to number one quicker than Tiger did. I love that about the game. It's not an elitist sport. People have an image of it, I think, as an elitist sport. It's not a cheap sport to play.
No.
But, you know, the clubs that I used when I was 12 and 13 didn't cost a fortune. I played with my father's club for 10 years after he died before I bought my own set of golf clubs. So if you want to get played, you can play it. And particularly now in Ireland, we're spoiled with good golf courses. And because of the times we've been through in terms of recessions and that, most courses will accept a green fee. So go and play. Go and play wherever you can. We're spoiled for choice.
Yeah, it's the beautiful thing about the game of golf, where, especially even with the Open, for an example, the guys like Ronan Maloney, David Carey, who got into Open qualifying, they're there and they're on equal footing as Tiger and as Rory. And
isn't that incredible?
It's fantastic, and for those guys,
it is a proper Open championship in terms of anybody can get to play in it if you just qualify. You know, it's not about world rankings. Yes, there's exemptions, and yes, there's automatic qualifications, whatever. But there's still a chance for a club pro or a decent amateur to get there if you want, and they've got there. Like I was watching Ronan today, he drained a cracking putt for a birdie at one point, and the commentator said, "Yeah, I qualified at such and such." As you say, he's on the same tee listings as Tiger Woods. It's ridiculous at the 150th Open at the home, but it'll always be Seve's venue because that put on 18th and that Matador celebration where he signalled all three sides of the grandstands in the navy jumper with the big white collar, the black hair flopping in the breeze. Magic.
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
A pleasure, Johnny.
On the tee, Jack Nicklaus.
This is the minute that millions around the world have waited for.
We will allow you to enjoy all of this. They are dancing in the pubs of Dublin.
3
They Harrington with an ace.
And we have a shining star at sunset. Rory continues his run to greatness.
The return to glory.